Rome, a name that still echoes through history. For centuries, it stood as the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. Its armies conquered continents, its engineers built wonders, and its culture shaped civilizations that still exist today. But among all the monuments that Rome created, one structure became the ultimate symbol of its power and ambition: the Colosseum. Today, millions of visitors stand before it in awe. Its massive arches rise above the city like the skeleton of a giant. Even in ruins, it commands attention. It seems impossible that such a structure could have been built nearly 2,000 years ago without modern machines, steel, or reinforced concrete. Yet the Romans achieved exactly that. They built a monument so grand that it would outlive their empire itself. But the story of the Colosseum does not begin with stone. It begins with fire. In the year 64 AD, a catastrophic fire broke out in the city of Rome. The flames spread quickly through narrow streets and wooden buildings. For 6 days and nights the fire raged, destroying homes, temples, and entire neighborhoods. Much of the city was reduced to ashes. Thousands were left homeless. Soon rumors began to spread among the people. Many believed that the Emperor Nero himself had ordered the fire to be set. Some claimed he wanted to clear space for a magnificent palace complex. Whether the rumors were true or not, Nero took advantage of the destruction. On the burned land, he built the Domus Aurea, the Golden House. It was not just a palace, it was a vast luxury complex with gardens, forests, banquet halls, and even an enormous artificial lake. At its entrance stood a colossal statue of Nero, over 30 meters tall. For the ordinary citizens of Rome, the palace was a symbol of arrogance and excess. While they struggled to rebuild their homes, their emperor lived surrounded by gold and luxury. But history would soon take a dramatic turn. In 68 AD, Nero died, and the empire entered a period of political chaos known as the Year of the Four Emperors. Eventually, power fell into the hands of a seasoned military commander named Vespasian. He founded what would become known as the Flavian dynasty. Vespasian understood that the people of Rome had grown tired of tyranny and extravagance. If he wanted their loyalty, he needed to prove that he was different from Nero. He needed a symbol. And so he made a decision that would change history forever. The artificial lake of Nero's palace would be drained. The luxurious land that had belonged to a single emperor would be returned to the people of Rome. In its place, Vespasian ordered the construction of the largest amphitheater ever built in the Roman world. This amphitheater would not be private, it would belong to everyone. Citizens from all social classes would be able to attend its events. The emperor would provide the entertainment for free. The message was powerful and clear. Where once stood the selfish luxury of a tyrant, there would now rise a monument dedicated to the Roman people. Construction began around the year 72 AD. Few people at the time could imagine the scale of what was about to be created. The project would require thousands of workers, enormous quantities of stone, and some of the most advanced engineering techniques the ancient world had ever seen. But the Romans had something more powerful than machines. They had discipline, organization, and a relentless determination to build structures that demonstrated the greatness of their empire. Stone by stone, arch by arch, the foundations of the Colosseum began to rise from the ground. Rome was about to witness the birth of one of the greatest architectural achievements in human history.
When construction began on the Colosseum, Rome became one of the largest building sites the ancient world had ever seen. thousands of workers gathered from across the empire. Skilled architects, engineers, stonecutters, blacksmiths, carpenters, and countless laborers worked side by side. The first step was to prepare the ground. Engineers drained the massive artificial lake that Nero had created for his palace. Deep foundations were dug to support the enormous weight of the structure that would rise above them. The Romans chose travertine stone as the main material for the outer structure. This durable limestone was quarried near the town of Tivoli, about 30 kilometers from Rome. Massive blocks weighing several tons each were transported to the city using carts pulled by oxen. Once the stones arrived, workers used wooden cranes powered by human labor to lift them into place. Iron clamps held the blocks together, forming the skeleton of a building that would become one of the most recognizable structures in history. What made the Colosseum truly remarkable was not just its size, but the brilliance of Roman engineering. The building was designed using a complex system of arches and vaults. Each arch supported the weight of the structure above it, distributing the pressure evenly throughout the building. This design allowed the Colosseum to be both incredibly strong and relatively lightweight. The outer walls rose through 4 levels. Each level displayed a different style of Roman column: Doric on the first level, Ionic on the second, and Corinthian on the third. The 4th level contained small windows and decorative elements that gave the structure its distinctive appearance. Inside, the amphitheater was even more impressive. Rows of stone seating, known as the cava, surrounded the central arena in a massive oval shape. The design allowed as many as 70,000 spectators to watch events comfortably. The seating arrangement reflected the strict social hierarchy of Roman society. The most powerful citizens, including senators and high officials, sat closest to the arena. Above them were the seats for wealthy citizens and knights. Higher still were places for ordinary Romans. Women and the poorest citizens sat at the very top. Despite the enormous crowds, the Colosseum was designed to allow people to move quickly and efficiently. A network of corridors, stairways, and entrances, known as vomitoria, allowed spectators to enter and leave the building in just a few minutes. But perhaps the most fascinating part of the Colosseum was hidden beneath the arena floor. This underground complex, known as the hypogeum, was a labyrinth of tunnels, cages, storage rooms, and mechanical lifts. It functioned as the backstage area for the spectacles that took place above. Wild animals were kept in cages. Gladiators waited for their turn to fight. Stage equipment and scenery were prepared for dramatic entrances. Using elevators and trapdoors operated by teams of workers, animals and fighters could suddenly appear in the arena, surprising the audience and creating unforgettable moments of excitement. After nearly a decade of construction, the Colosseum was finally completed under Emperor Titus, the son of Vespasian. In the year AD, the amphitheater was inaugurated with a celebration unlike anything Rome had ever seen. For 100 days, the city would witness spectacles of combat, hunting, and theatrical displays that would define the Colosseum as the greatest entertainment arena in the ancient world.
When the Colosseum finally opened to the public in 80 AD, the excitement in Rome was extraordinary. Crowds poured into the massive amphitheater through its 80 entrances. Within minutes, tens of thousands of spectators filled the seats. The arena floor stretched before them, covered in sand to absorb blood and provide traction for fighters and animals. High walls surrounded the arena to protect the audience from the dangers below. The games began early in the morning. The first events were usually the venationes, or animal hunts. Exotic animals from every corner of the Roman Empire were brought to the Colosseum. Lions from Africa, tigers from Asia, bears from northern forests, and even elephants were displayed before the cheering crowds. Professional hunters fought these animals in dramatic battles that combined danger and spectacle. For many spectators, it was the first time they had ever seen such creatures. Later in the day came public executions. Criminals and prisoners of war were sometimes forced to face wild animals as punishment for their crimes. These grim spectacles were intended to demonstrate the power of Roman law and the authority of the emperor.
But the main attraction of the Colosseum was always the gladiators. These fighters were often slaves, prisoners of war, or condemned criminals. Yet some men volunteered to become gladiators, hoping to gain fame, fortune, and glory in the arena. Gladiators trained in special schools where they learned combat techniques and discipline. Each fighter specialized in a particular style of armor and weaponry. Some carried heavy shields and short swords, while others fought with nets and tridents. When two gladiators entered the arena, the crowd erupted with excitement. The fighters saluted the emperor and prepared for battle. The duels were brutal but carefully organized. Referees watched the fight to ensure that the rules were followed. When a gladiator was wounded or defeated, he could raise a finger to request mercy. The final decision often belonged to the emperor or the crowd. With a simple gesture, a life could be spared or taken. Sometimes the Colosseum hosted even more elaborate spectacles. On special occasions, the arena floor could be flooded with water to recreate naval battles known as naumachie. Ships sailed across the arena, while warriors fought dramatic sea battles before thousands of spectators. These events were more than simple entertainment. They were a powerful political tool. Roman leaders understood that providing free food and spectacular games helped maintain public support. The famous phrase, "bread and circuses," perfectly described the strategy. For centuries, the Colosseum remained the center of Roman entertainment. But after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Great Games slowly came to an end. Gladiatorial combat disappeared, and the amphitheater gradually fell into silence. Earthquakes damaged the structure, and parts of it were dismantled for building materials. Plants and vegetation began to grow among the ruins. Yet despite centuries